Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I'm working in my art journal, so get comfy and let's get crafty. I am working from this prompt. This is the Mission Inspiration Facebook group October 2022 prompt. It is the theme or the idea is a stitch in time, and we have kind of a purple, yellow, magenta-y color palette there. Well, I kind of sort of went there, I kind of sort of didn't. I have a handful of colors here as well as a crackle medium I'm going to be using today. I have a piece of mixed media paper. This is about 5.5 inches wide by about 8.5 inches tall, and I am going to be adding some acrylic paint to the background. Now, I know that the prompt is not necessarily Halloween themed, but it is October, and while I am not a lover of all things Halloween, I can get there kinda. Kinda, sorta, roundabout way. I am adding the colors down to the paper in no real rhyme or reason. The only thing I think I should have planned a little bit better for was the black and either left it out or used much, much less, because I did end up with kind of an ugly blit kind of down the bottom right-hand side, you know, that when the paint squirts out and it makes a mess because too much comes out. I did have that. I did have to take a minute and stop and clean out my brush because it was just too much. The theme, a stitch in time. I didn't know what to do with this. I honestly didn't. I don't like sewing, embroidery, cross-stitching. Not my jam. I thought about like time travel maybe, or even like Doctor Who themed, although I'm not really a huge follower of that genre either. So it really took me a minute to come up with something that I thought I could do and still be following the prompt. Now, I know that the prompt is a jumping off point. I know that the theme is how it appeals to me. I know that the color palette is, you know, optional or suggested, but I kind of want to see what I can do inside the prompt, inside the color palette, inside the theme. So I have dried back all of my acrylic paint, and I am now going to add this crackle medium. So this is just, it's a folk art. I will tell you right now, I have no idea how long this has been in my craft stash. It may literally have come cross country with me when we moved 15 years ago. I don't remember ever buying this stuff. I know two things about this. The base layer needs three things. The base layer needs to be dry. The top layer needs to be a different color. And whichever direction you brush the crackle medium on, the top layer has to be brushed in the opposite direction. Oh, and a fourth thing, the crackle medium has to be dried as well. So I am heat setting that a bit, and then I'm going to put it aside and work on my focal images. So I have printed these two fence segments and a spider. I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut them out. I am not going to make you watch that nonsense. I've also taken a black Sharpie marker and gone around the edges to kind of fill in where I'm not great at cutting with that straight edge. And it got to be too much, like too many fiddly pieces, because I printed them on just regular old copy paper. So there's no heft to the paper. So I just flipped it over and went and like traced the back edge with a fat Sharpie. Well, technically it's a fine tip Sharpie, but we all know this is not a fine tip Sharpie. And I'm just going around all of the pieces to kind of hide that white core paper, to hide the edges where I did not cut pretty, and all the things. I really envy the way that Mike can use a scalpel, a straight blade, to cut his images out. He's phenomenal. Okay, so my crackle medium is dry. I am going to turn my paper sideways. So one cool thing that I discovered was it's taken this mixed media paper and it has made it almost, gosh, it almost feels like a stiff fabric now. It's kind of weird. So I am taking this white, I think it's the picket fence, so it's like the white distress acrylic ink, and I am brushing a light layer. Now, I don't know that it matters how thick your top layer is over the crackle medium. I do know that the thicker it is, the longer it takes for those crackles to come out. Now, I put a ton of crackle medium on my paper, and you can see at the bottom edge there, it's already starting to work. The downside is I'm leaving fingerprints all over my page, trying to get this paint on there in a way that doesn't leave, like I'm trying to move fast. My page is sliding all over. I can see that the crackle medium is already starting to work. So I'm trying to get out of the way and let it do its business, because every time I go over it, I'm starting that crackle process over again, right? So I'm just kind of trying to get out of the way and let the product do what it was intended to do. I'm really impressed with how fast this is giving that crackle effect. To be honest, I wasn't 100% sure how it was going to work. I have used crackle medium in other mixed media projects, but usually the substrate has not been paper. It's been like a canvas or a piece of wood. But look at how beautiful the crackle on that is. The top center there didn't crackle as well. I think that that was like the thinnest part, like that had the least amount of crackle medium. So note to self, super awesome medium. Okay, so now the stitching part. I have this black, it's kind of a embroidery floss, but it's not the kind that you pull apart into strands. It's the kind that you would use for tatting, like when you're making lace. And I only know what that is because my mom is a genius and she does all the things. So I have started to create a spider web, and I don't know. I wanted it to have that spider web feel where it has each section hung together. In my brain, I was doing this in the right direction. It's fine. It's all fine. You get the idea. It's very definitely not realism here. It's very definitely impressionist. No spider in her right mind would actually probably spin this kind of a web. But you know what? It is what it is. I'm stitching the paper with some string. Okay? That's all we're going to say about that. I did do the down, I don't know, strands, and then I went across it. I'm trying to make them I'm trying to do as not symmetrical as possible, because I don't know that it needs to be perfect, right? And then I am leaving a strand that is kind of long hanging down for my spider to hang on. The next thing I need to do is start adding my images to the front of my page. So the first part I'm going to glue on is my fence. And I realized at this moment that I chopped the pickets off one side of that when I was cutting it out or something, and not the other. So I've got to make this fence top, or the fence tops, match. Yeah, I don't know what happened to that. Anyway, I am going to adhere these fence pieces with some Tombow Mono multi-glue. I am doing that because it dries back clear and not shiny. So I can add it to my art journal page. I don't have to worry about it. If it oozes out from those fence pickets, I don't have to worry about there being a big glob of glue sitting on the front of my page when I'm done. I'm just going to glue both pieces of fence down. This page took probably an hour, a little over an hour to create, but I'm telling you right now that easily 50% of that time was drying time. And of the other 50%, half of that was the stitching. It really was a quick page once I had the idea come together. I decided to go with a spider and a web because I could make that Halloween-ish, and it had that element of stitching. I went with the crackle medium to kind of give it that outdoor kind of barnsy, like maybe it's the side corner of a barn. I used the Halloween colors behind the crackle medium just to kind of give the spider and the web that kind of Halloweenish feeling. Now you will notice that this poor spider has had one of her legs amputated. Don't worry, I will re-adhere it. It probably will not be usable. This poor spider will probably not be able to use that hind leg, but I will reattach it. So when I started thinking about what I wanted to add to this page, as far as a title or a quote or a message, it didn't feel like a stitch in time was my best option, although I suppose it could have been. But then I started thinking about Charlotte's Web. So Charlotte's Web was the first independent level reader book that I owned for my own copy of. I got it for, I don't know, my birthday or Christmas, right around the same time of the year when I was in first grade, and I read it over and over again. I quickly graduated from Charlotte's Web to things like Nancy Drew, but this was my the first book that I owned for myself. So I decided to go through and find the words that Charlotte had put in her web. So I used my label maker on some black label tape and typed the words some pig, terrific, radiant, and humble, and just kind of applied those words to my art journal page. Doesn't really have much at all to do with a stitch in time, other than when I see this, I'm time traveling back to when I read that book. I don't know. That's just what I thought of when I saw my page getting to this point. That kind of white barn wall, the spider, the kind of spooky feeling of it all, because spiders are not my jam. I'm not scared of them. 100% don't ever want them in my house. Just how it is. Because I use this crackle medium, the paper has a really flexible texture. So I'm going to add another piece of paper to the back of it. And because it is October, I am going to use this kind of rust-colored orange paper. This is just an old scrapping up pattern paper that I have in my stash. I probably have 9,432 pieces of paper like it because, I'm addicted to pattern paper. I'm glad that there's no 12-step program for that because my husband would probably require me to attend, and I don't want to. Okay, I've got that all trimmed off, and I'm ready to adhere my prompt card to the back of my page. The theme for October is a stitch in time. I did some stitching. I am going to go ahead and add my holes with my paper punch so that I can put it into my art journal binder. And all that is left, one of those holes landed in my spider web because I did not think that out very clearly. Should have had it come in the other direction. Hello. No big deal. I'm just going to take a little Tombow glue and my tweezers and glue those threads right back down to the page. And, worst case scenario, I have a couple of flyaway strands of my spider web. That's actually, not the weirdest thing I would ever have seen in a spider web. Words in a spider web, that might make me pause. But a couple flyaway strands, no big deal. So here's a close-up of my labels. The light's kind of shining on them a little bit funny, but I think it turned out awesome. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I have a couple of other videos here for you to watch, as well as a subscribe button. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you did. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and have a really great day.